my name's Dana Smith. Between Breath and Air is a podcast exploring holistic wellness in our modern world. I've been exploring the intersections of physical and mental health, creativity, spirituality, and social responsibility in the realms of wellness for the past decade of my dual careers as a massage therapist and life coach. And this podcast is an extension of that exploration. Join me and my guests as we look closely at the many facets of embodying whole human wellness in this achingly complex world. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. I'm just going to take a breath for myself so I don't get my little weird little ego self hogging the space and just come into my body. Alrighty. Professionally, Sierra has been Let's try again. Professionally, Sierra has been helping devoted parents find their groove for nearly 10 years. She specializes in teaching parents to help their babies and children love to sleep, and in the process, they gain confidence and peace of mind in growing their new phase of life. She's also a mother of 3, a solopreneur, and an avid gardener and paddler. But I know her in more dimensions than that. I know her as a poet, a writer, an appreciator of small pleasures, and someone who I've shared some of my deepest belly laughs with. So in our conversation today, we're inviting you into a glimpse of how we can get lost in conversation, where we feel into the tensions of life, and can sometimes help each other make sense of being ourselves amidst the influences around us. So welcome, Sierra.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Such a delight. How are you arriving today?
I am at a crossroads, as so often happens, as a parent and someone who works out of a home office where I have children out of school and we're packing for a trip and a birthday party tomorrow, and I don't know what's for dinner tonight. But that's okay, because I went paddling last night and I'm seeing a friend this afternoon. So, keeping it all in perspective and trying to ride the wave.
I love that. I'm excited to talk to you more about this phase of life we're both navigating. I mean, you have youngish children in the household, no longer little toddlers. They're off being independent and doing cool things, all school age still. And that's an important role that you've stepped into. I mean, ever since I've known you, it's been an important one. Being a partner has been an important role that you are embodying and have for, how long have you and Mike been together now?
20 years.
What? That's madness. I love that. Happy 20th. And all the other roles that you play. I mean, you're also a friend and a daughter and a cousin and a niece and all these other roles and a community member. I know that contributing to your community has been an important part of your identity as well. And why don't we talk about, because we've known each other for such a long time. And one of the topics that you brought to when I proposed this conversation to you was the biggest metamorphosis since puberty. Knowing yourself beyond parenthood and into midlife. So why don't we jump into present time? Like what we're both navigating, what we're all navigating. So how would you describe the journey of rediscovering your identity beyond the role of parent, partner, professional, etc.?
Yes. Well, as you said, I had always wanted to be someone's wife, and falling in love is, as we all know, something that is miraculous and all-consuming. And it was the same with motherhood, equally miraculous, all-consuming. And as is working for myself and running a business. And now here I am at nearly 43 years old, and these lifelong desires of mine that have driven me have been fulfilled. And I really find myself, that knowing myself at this point in life is difficult, because I'm not who I used to be before I took on those roles. At the same time, that's not just who I am. I'm still me, but who's that? I find myself questioning myself in ways that I haven't in decades, and kind of knocking on the mirror, wondering if anyone's home, basically revisiting the identity quest that I went through in adolescence, but with a few more decades of experience behind me.
I definitely I share that terrain as well. And the way that I've felt that over the past several years, having gone through some pretty significant life changes in the past, decade as well. The ways that I have previously tapped into figuring out what matters to me, or the practices that help me connect with myself have changed. I've used some of those practices that just don't fit anymore. Like I bring them into this present time and I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't do it for me anymore. And it just, it can be very unmooring to know that you want to feel connected to self, but not know how to go in and how to access that. What's that been like for you?
Well, it's challenging because I mean, there's a lot of joy and pride in being, someone's mom and in having a career and in having a long-term relationship. There's a lot of joy and pride there. At the same time, I don't want that to be everything. And I know that there's other parts of me, and I haven't had, frankly, the time, and that's on me partially, but I have made those roles my priority, and my sense of self has definitely taken a back seat, as have my friendships, and honestly, even my relationship with my husband compared to my role as business owner and mother. And I mean, it's a hard one. I talk about this even with my clients, parents that I work with. We all want to give our children the best. And of course, there's that whole old adage, well, put your, oxygen mask on first. That's easier said than done when you have a to-do list that's 20 things long before you can even start your workday. And so, yeah, it's very challenging. And only now that my youngest is turning 9, do I even have the bandwidth to think about it, to consider who am I and what can I do that's going to really fill my own cup. And thank goodness I'm here. It feels like an opportunity. That's what midlife, I'm really starting to reframe it as an opportunity to do some inner reflection and do some things for me that I haven't done in a long time.
That's a beautiful reframe. Puts you back behind the wheel as well. Like I think a lot of us get swept up in being done to, it's like, oh, well, midlife is getting me down or our circumstances are getting us down, but it doesn't help us make the choice about how we want to live. It doesn't help us identify with our desires and like figure out what it is that matters most. I know my desires have changed. That's actually something I've been playing with more is like really, I feel like I've really lost touch with what I desire, like what makes me tingle inside on all different levels in all different areas of my life. Like just even thinking about that, I feel a little bit of like prickle in my skin. I'm like, yeah, what is that? And it's just that desire to feel desire is where I'm at right now. And so I'm giving myself that adulthood permission to just try new things and see what happens without letting, I find that sometimes I get a little cynical because I'm like, I've been around the block. I know how this is going to unfold. Or, I bring in some preconceived notions as to, what I think it's going to be, which is easy when you get really run down, when you get burnt out, when you go through some tough times that make you feel like you've been scraped along the sea floor with all those scary fish down there, like it can be hard to not feel scared to try new things when your cup is empty or you don't feel. And that can lead to feeling not like yourself as well. So yeah, I find that sense of curiosity and give myself permission to play, to be curious and make mistakes, which can be scary. Do you find that making mistakes is scarier now that you're older?
No, because I've been a perfectionist since I was probably 8 years old. No, I've never enjoyed making mistakes or looking the fool. It's not been something I've ever been comfortable with. I have never been interested in acting or being on a stage. And when I have done public speaking, that's only something in more recent years, I am prepared, right? Like when I'm standing on a stage in front of 100 people, I want to know this inside and out, right? So I think it always appealed to me to become a consultant or an expert in something so that I can go deep and really speak, knowledgeably about this topic, because talking about topics I don't know a lot about isn't as much fun and I'm not as confident. So that's part of my perfectionism. But go ahead.
Interesting that fun is tied to feeling like and you have control.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a part of me. But I've been called A type, but I think of myself more as an A- type. But, I have put so much effort into becoming the things that I now am. But now that I'm looking at who I am underneath that, I feel like a watered down version of myself, right? Or like so the part of the reframe is, well, maybe I haven't been eroded. Maybe instead I've actually just chiseled away the parts that aren't truly me. And I'm actually now a more potent version of myself, but I certainly don't feel as fully, a full expression of that because I'm not 15 or 22 anymore, and I have a lot of responsibility, and that's okay. There's multiple times I've had that feeling in life in the last 10 to 20 years of, wow, there's a lot of drudgery in life, right? And that can wear you down, just that day in and day out. But that's where I know at one point in my life, being able to really enjoy the small things and the little pleasures, I have to remember that that's still me and that I can still do that. And then start enjoying bigger pleasures. Like you're talking about what makes you tingle. What do I really desire? And that's been a big for 5 or more years now. I've been thinking, okay, what are the next big goals in my life? And it's not becoming a wife, mother, and running a business anymore. What is it? And I still don't have answers on that. And that can be a little scary.
Yeah, I resonate with that too. I mentioned it earlier, but I had a similar moment a couple of years back where I was looking around going, yeah, I did all the things that I wanted to do. So, and it took me a while to realize that my vision for myself and my business actually didn't excite me anymore. You know, it's like, oh no, I've outgrown that. That doesn't matter to me because I've already done it to the level that my development needed to do it. Of course, I could have gone deeper with it, could have gone further with it, but I was like, oh no, it's not relevant anymore. Right? It's not that vision and that goal isn't still going to play out. You know, I still feel like there's a lot of consistency in how I've grown myself, grown my practices, my businesses, etc. Like there's a fair amount of consistency in that. And I think that's going to carry on through, but my inner world feels very different. I'm still going to use it feels like I'm going to be continuing to use a lot of what I've already brought, but it's going to be pivoting and I'm going to be in it differently. And I already start to feel that. And that feels good. That feels like an actualization of that, whatever that desire is pulling me towards. But like you said, I'm not quite sure what that is.
I've heard other women a little bit ahead of me in life saying that it's just a beautiful thing to be in your 50s because you just don't really care as much so deeply about what others are thinking of you. But you also, you're able to say no in a way that, I mean, I've always been a yes person. I think yes is a beautiful word. Like, do you want to do this? Yes. Have you ever done it before? No, but I'll still do it. Like, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's follow something new and different and see where it goes. And out of self-preservation, I'm not able to do that at this point in my life with everything. And sometimes there's beauty in saying no, and having boundaries. But a lot of my self-discovery as of late has been about, okay, well, I think I know who I am. I feel like I always have, but who am I not anymore? You know, what am I letting go of? And I mean, I'm not sure I want to really identify as a foodie or a cook anymore because cooking has become drudgery as a mother of 3 with a husband who doesn't spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And I'm not even sure I want to be a traveler anymore. You know, and whoa, like that was a huge part of who I was before work and kids. And am I comfortable dropping those? I'm not sure I've come to terms with it quite yet. It just feels so difficult right now. Maybe that's why I don't enjoy it. Maybe I will come back to them. And that's always why I've said I never got a tattoo. You know, I always expected myself to continue to change. And what I like right now, deeply and passionately, I might not love in 10 or 20 years or 50 years. So I think the big realization here for me is I'm still growing up. That's okay, right? Like that, I kind of thought I was a grown up now, but I don't know.
I'm not sure I want to grow up. And I also there's a part of me that feels like I should be grown up by now. Always suspicious of those shoulds.
Oh, absolutely.
Always suspicious. And I look around at people my age and I'm like, yeah, they're full grown people. They've got their lives. I'm like, oh shit, I guess that's me too.
I know. I think that a lot of us feel that, I
Yeah.
thought I would be further ahead by now, or I thought I would have more, whatever it is. I thought I'd
Mhm.
have a second home, or I thought I would have traveled the world, or I'd have more money. Sometimes that can feel like failure, but we really
Mhm.
do have to acknowledge the journey,
Yeah,
um, and be proud of what we've accomplished, no matter what it is in any area of our life, because we've spent a lot of time doing it by this point.
absolutely. And on that, actually, that's what builds our lives is like those moments on moments become days, days become weeks, weeks become years, etc. Years become decades. And I'm starting to get really suspicious of how I'm spending my moments because I'm very aware of that. My partner and I were talking recently. He got this new book and it's like, I forget what it's called, but it's like something about however many weeks you have in a lifetime. He's looking around at the time he spent away from his family who lives in the UK and going, oh my gosh, I've been in Canada more than way more than half my life at this point. Well, not way more, but more than half my life. And that means I have lived apart from my family, whom he loves and adores deeply. So he's questioning his, yeah, what does the next 40 years look like? Looking at like, okay, yeah, my parents are this age, my sister's this age, a baby niece. And he wants to, show up more fulsomely. So we've both had this like realization of like, whoa, okay. So if this means we're more than halfway to 80, and at 80, your life is real different than when it's 40. So what are we going to do between now and then? Because it's like these are the moments that matter. And the moments matter. The types of thoughts that we have in the moments as we live our lives are what create our reality. So how I feel, if I'm feeling stuck and gross and cynical and talking down on myself, then I'm not creating the space in the next moment for myself to be how I prefer to feel, which is probably invigorated and inspired alive and like I'm doing something that matters, and other things. So I'm just being very careful about how I am in the moment so that my weeks and months add up to something meaningful that is relevant to my current level of existence.
Well, and how appropriate is that? Because as in life, it is in parenthood and in business. It's all about the habits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your children are going to pick up on what you do more than what you say. If you
Yeah.
have a moment where you lecture them on something, they're not going to remember that as much as what you did day in and day out that really created the framework or structure of their lives when they were young. And in business, it's the same thing. You can be absolutely on your A game for a month, but if you're not the other 11 months, it's better to show up at 75% than at 100 for 1 month and then at 25% for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I at this point in life, like you said, focusing on, okay, what this next 40 years? Well, I view it like it's my responsibility now to protect my peace at this point. And that means being true to myself and my ever evolving self, right? And giving myself grace, and trying to revel in the experience of simply being alive whenever possible. So a big one for me has been, being on the water or in the water has always been a big one for me, but growing things is another one, children or plants or whatever. But walking in the cemetery, I've never felt so alive as when I'm walking amongst dead people.
I fully relate to that.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes I'll even talk to the people whose names are on the gravestones, just jokingly. I do it totally, with a smile, but, rather be where I am than where you are, even though I'm having a really stressful week or a bad day or a bad month or a difficult time or I'm unhappy about something. At least I'm above ground, right? And it really puts things in perspective very quickly.
Yeah, I love taking a look at mortality. I would do it regularly. It doesn't spook me. I know some people aren't comfortable having a look at that. It can be kind of scary for folks who haven't looked at it regularly. But I find that a fantastic deadline. I find it, I'm really, really deadline oriented. You know, I have to have a good hard deadline for me to really deliver on something. So nothing like the end of life creeping up on me, you know, at a steady pace for me to go, yeah, actually, here I am, 43. You know, this is it. This is my most able-bodied. Well, I don't know if it's my most able-bodied, but I have lots at my fingertips right now. I am able-bodied. You know, I have a lot of resources. I have a lot of experience. I still have a lot of desire to do cool things. And so now is the time to do that. Right? We can't keep kicking it down the road. I can't keep making excuses and being a victim of my circumstance or, you know, oh, I'll get to it whenever, because, well, it hasn't happened thus far and it's been apparently important to me for a really long time. So is it that important, or do I need to shit or get off the pot on this?
I can really struggle with, okay, well, I thought I wanted to travel with my kids. So why am I not taking them on international trips? Why am I not making that a priority? Well, I'm not making it a priority because it's not my priority. It's a nice idea, and I see other people do it, and I go, wow. But I don't know that I really have the inner drive to do that. I do other things. We do lots of other things, but do I need to do that to be a good parent? No, I don't think so. Would we make some memories? Absolutely. And is there reason to do it? Absolutely. But am I being complacent in not taking my kids on an international trip or planning something in 3 years from now and then making it happen? Or am I living in the moment and enjoying my kids? And I mean, we have made a life that we love. We moved to an area we want to live. We have, you know, the garden and the property and the proximity to the mountains and the lake that we want. Do I need to take them somewhere else to be fully fulfilled and to make sure that they're having their best childhoods? So yeah, I go back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to determine sometimes, is this the time for that, or is there another time? But at the same time, you don't want to kick it down the road if it matters.
Yeah. I struggle with that too. It's like wondering the relevancy of what used to matter, be it values or activities that I always thought I wanted to do. And then I look at it again, I'm like, oh, am I just in the habit of thinking that matters to me, or does it actually matter? Have I outgrown that? And, you know, there's definitely a few things where I'm like wondering if I just need to put them down and stop carrying that around so that I can be available for new things to take up that space. How do you differentiate, you know, if you've outgrown something and you're ready to put it down versus you just haven't prioritized it and you just want to shine the light on it?
Well, I think ultimately the proof is in the pudding. And if you set it down and you don't pick it up, I don't mean you can't put something down for a month or a year or 5 years even, but if you don't pick it back up, you can absolutely, you know, think about it. Okay, is that something I want to make space for in my life? And when we are running businesses or, you know, have a heavy workload and want to be there for the people who are, you know, in proximity to us first and foremost, this is where the friendship one has been really hard for me. I've lived in a number of different locations. I've got friends in a number of locations. I only live in one location. And it's very difficult to feel connected with people who don't live in my immediate world. But ultimately, I mean, friendships are a two-way street, and there's going to be off times and on times. But ultimately, our ability to continue to grow as a person, I believe, is equal to our ability to experience wonder and awe. And so if something is not filling your cup and you let it go, there's going to be something else. But keeping that sense of interest, you know, I recently joined a dragon boat team, and I'm spending time with women who are older than me. And it's been remarkable. I keep calling when people ask me like, oh, you know, what's it like? I was worried it was going to be too social and it wouldn't be enough exercise or physical. But in the boat, we're each individual paddler is doing their own thing. But when we're out of the boat, I'm surrounded by interesting and interested women. And man, if that's not a goal for life, I don't know what is. To be interesting and interested. I mean, to me, that in a nutshell, these are people who continue to be fascinated by their inner lives, their connections with other people. And demonstrating a remarkable acceptance of the challenges of the human experience. And wow, it's such a great example. It's actually been a real pleasure to spend time with women who are, some of them are 10 or 20 years older than me. One of them is still running Ironmans, but that's been eye-opening as I enter into midlife. Ultimately, you pick up what you pick up and you don't pick up what you don't. And it's okay to reassess that, but the guilt isn't really helping anybody.
No, absolutely not. That surrendering and that letting go is essential. I mean, we learn that, in all phases of life. Our kids are amazing at teaching us how to let go over and over and over and over again. And, the more practiced we get at not being attached. And I mean, lots of Eastern religions, and belief systems really speak to non-attachment. And there's a good reason for it. Like, if we stay attached to our identities, to our children, to our whatever, in a way that creates suffering for us, we're making our lives really uncomfortable. We're making ourselves unavailable for magic and wonder and growth and healing and all these other things. So it's that practice of being in love in the activities that we're doing without being attached.
And here's a metaphor. As you know, I was a big horse girl. And then around 20 years old, I became allergic to horses. And I haven't had horses or dogs or cats in my life since. And I was an animal lover. We spent a lot of time around horses, riding, and I mean, it was a big part of my life. And I had to completely drop it. And circumstances, I moved to the city for university, and there were other things too. But I always assumed I would come back to it. And I haven't, because it's not worth it. Like, I literally have something that's preventing me from enjoying it the same way I used to. And it's the same thing with when you have an injury or, whether it's life circumstances change and you can't do things you used to enjoy. It's very hard to accept. But that's why being open to other avenues or paths to joy is so important.
What about that letting go and the grieving of those things we have to put down? What about that? Because we can't just pretend it doesn't hurt to have to be forced to, not do things that we love or engage with animals. I know how much that has meant to you in the past. And I can relate to what you said about the ability to move meaningfully how we want to, and all the thoughts and the fears that come up with these losses. But what about that grief process or that letting go process? Because that can be something we don't want to look at, but it's an essential part of being ready to step into what's next.
Well, I don't know if you've heard the story about I don't remember the starting point of the story, but it's a man who's, how is it? The horse runs away and all the neighbors say, oh, it's such bad luck that your horse ran away. And then the horse comes back with a whole bunch of other horses. And now, oh, it's such good luck that you have all these horses. And then his son breaks his leg and such bad luck. But then war breaks out and he can't go to war. Oh, it's such good luck that your son broke his leg. I think the older we get, we have this perspective that, one door, closes, another one opens. When the door closes, it's absolutely okay to say, ugh, I didn't want that door to close. Or, oh, I, caught my finger in it and now I'm in pain. But ultimately, with time and perspective and hopefully other things that you enjoy and other people in your life who, whether they distract you initially or are just there for you, you find that we are not one thing. If I can't ride horses, I'm still me. And even, my early identity, I was a skier and a horseback rider and a writer and a reader. And I don't know that I identify with any of those except maybe reader anymore. And yeah, I've shed them and it hasn't always been pretty, but it's like a snake. You do have to shed your skin. It's a natural process. It can be uncomfortable and itchy, but it's not necessarily unnatural, because when you put something down, it gives you capacity to do something else or to come back around to it at a later time and have a new perspective on it. grief is inevitable. You know, guilt is somewhat inevitable. Disappointment, self-disappointment, but we just don't want to stay there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's a place where we have a bit of control, right? It's
well,
like
and talking to ourselves as if, you know, the inner child, you know, it's okay to feel upset. Yeah, it's okay to feel pissed off. You have every right to feel that way. And when you're ready to move on, I'll be here for you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for that. What is it like to feel enough? Like that enough feeling? Because I know you're growth oriented. I'm growth oriented. I know I personally put a lot of pressure on myself to, I don't know, be more, achieve more, do better, keep growing. Even when I'm not really up for it, you know, when my cup's been really empty, I've still maintained that same amount of pressure. And that conversation of being enough is ever changing for me anyway. What are your thoughts on being in relationship with being enough?
I feel like I'm full to the brim at this point in my life. So simplifying and even finding stillness has been, or enjoying stillness has been challenging for me at times. And I thoroughly enjoy it now. And certainly I carve out places for it in my life, whether that's just a walk by myself away from everyone else where, you know, and I don't listen to a podcast and I don't listen to music and I just have stillness and quiet because the rest of my life is enough. But I also rail against some of the, and always have, the sense that we're not doing enough, we're not being enough, we don't have enough. And there was a billboard when I lived in Montreal that said, "Avez-vous assez? Do you have enough?" You know, and for a brand of clothing or something. And it was like, ugh. Thank you. I think I do. I don't need what you're selling. But then to bring it back to this midlife point, yeah, thank you very much. I have enough, right? Which allows me to say no more often. And that's something I've struggled with, being a yes person, being someone who wants to bend over backwards to help people, who has what my husband calls overhelpful syndrome. It can be a challenge. It's a fine line to ride between feeling like I am enough and I have enough and I'm doing enough, and then other times feeling completely overstimulated and overwhelmed about having too much or doing too much. So I'm getting better at riding that line. And part of it is just that my kids are growing up and I've been working in my field now long enough that it's not all brand new to me. I don't know. It's an ever evolving process.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? And staying adaptable, right? And that's key, is like being real with yourself about what is relevant for you in this moment. For me, I shouldn't say you. That's, which is it? I think it's in a book called by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's the 4 Agreements. And one of the 4 agreements is always do your best, which is further explained to, well, your best is going to change from moment to moment and day to day. So you can always honestly just ask yourself, well, have I done my best in this moment, given what I'm walking through? And that gives you so much permission to adapt to what is real for you. And the other thing that came up for me when you were just speaking was making a differentiation between your inner world versus the outer world, and which one you're responding to when you're assessing your level of enoughness or doing your best. I think we can get into trouble when we are trying to perform for outer expectations and without having checked in with ourselves, right? And this is where reflection, of course, and is so important as we navigate life, like getting really clear on, what matters, where we're going, all these things we first started talking about. It's like, how do you get clear on all that? And that helps us. Yeah, look at that. We just answered the question. There you go, everybody. That is how you find out where your enough is. You become a really reflective person.
Well, I think that's what midlife provides us this opportunity for, is inner reflection in a way that many of us haven't had time for, or even the depth to be able to really go there when we were younger, because we all know what it's like to be young, shiny objects, and, you know, you're yeah, you have other things you're focusing on, what's right in front of your nose, rather than maybe what's going on the inside. And as we march closer to our own end, I think that's a very natural, occurrence. I have a paddling coach who will tell us, okay, on this drill, I want you to all give 80%. Your 80%. Your 80% might not be her 80%. Your 80%. And she'll even say, I can't tell if you're giving your 80%. You do your 80%. And then we'll do another, and then later on she'll say, okay, we're just going to like ease off now. Okay, everybody's 60%. But it's your 60%. And I've actually used this metaphor now in talking to my kids. Like, yeah, do your best. Great. But sometimes it's okay to just do good enough, right? And we don't always have to be at 100%. We can be doing our 80% because that's what we have the capacity for right now. Mm-hmm. And that's still good, right? So, yeah, sometimes we have to come to terms with what's good enough for us as an individual. It's going to be all right. The world keeps turning. Just because you're not doing everything for everyone all the time or giving your all. And I like that, they can't tell. I'm not saying if you live life at 10%, yeah, people are going to be able to tell, but that's not what I mean. It's more just it's okay to cut yourself some slack.
I love that. The perfectionist in you probably was like, what? Wait, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like 100% all the time. and that is a path to burnout. No doubt about it. Yeah.
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 Oh man. I have a Peloton membership. So I pedal my little indoor bike to all these different fitness instructors. And some of them are classic fitness instructors where they're like, okay, here's this, physical challenge that we're approaching and you got to pace yourself in this way, and kind of like what your instructor was saying. And then some of the instructors, they are like life coaches. They're like using all these metaphors about, facing your challenges and letting go of the past and being in the moment to challenge yourself, with this one particular thing that we're looking at. And I just love how fitness and personal development, because it is, they're so interdigitated, and a lot of the awesome encouragement and advice that is provided in both of these worlds can cross over to the other world. So, I mean, yeah, our physical world and our inner world are very, very, and our bodies and our ways of being are intertwined. Cracks me up though, because I'm like, dang, you're a great coach on all the ways. So, so here's a fun one. Why don't we imagine what it would be like to give advice to ourselves as we wrap up our conversation? So if we could go back and give our younger selves advice about midlife, relationships, or ways of being, or anything that we've covered, what would it be? What would be that advice?
Great question. What did I need to hear? Well, probably that it is your journey. This is it. This is your journey. You're not here for anyone else but you. Like, I'm talking about especially myself back when before I was a wife and a mother, before I was even working in a regular job. You got to fill your own cup, right? And habits. It comes down to the habits. It comes down to what you do today, like how you show up in anything is how you show up in everything. And not to put too much pressure on yourself, right? To have permission to, I think I have done a really good job of enjoying the different phases of my life. Yeah, there's a bit of a precipice at this point where I feel like it's, okay, ooh, now what? But looking back, I think I always felt that way, right? You're always going to be growing up. I think that's a big takeaway from this conversation that I would tell myself then as well. What about you?
Yeah, I like that prompt of like, what do I wish? What did I need to hear? So many things. Where do I start? Because it's like, I still feel a similar level of pressure in myself and it seems like internal pressure. Like I don't feel like it's pressure to prove. It feels like I have a lot of something that needs to move through me through my lifetime. And I still feel the urgency to create that. whatever that is. And that's been something I've sat with. I'm like, well, what is that? At different points I thought it was one thing, and then I thought it was something else, and I'd moved towards that. But I still feel that pressure to express whatever that thing is that is true for me. At certain points on my journey, it was like, yeah, I'm going to become a famous actor, or I'm going to be, get more into like health and well-being. And yeah, I really wanted to be a yoga teacher for a really long time. That was really important to me. And, I didn't do either of those. They've both been things that have influenced me and been a part of my life. And I still feel like they're part of my identity. But I don't do them, and I don't feel the need to. There's definitely a part of me too that is still stuck with perfectionism and fear of messing up. And I'm sure lots of us experience that. And that definitely has held me back from full expression and like really just running at things 100%. Like I often feel like I'm dragging like this heavy, heavy thing behind me that I'm just like, if I could just let that go, it would be a lot more fun. Because even if I don't try things, that is a way of fucking up, right? And if I do try things and I mess them up along the way, that's also a failure. So I guess making peace with, being a failure and whatever that is. And it's like major air quotes around failure.
Yeah.
But like messing up is part of learning. I think I needed to understand that. And I can see how I've held myself back for fear of not wanting to do it, not 100% or even 90%, like there's lots of things I haven't finished because of not being able to take it over that finish line, because it's like, oh gosh, then it's done. And then it's a thing that will get judged by me or whoever or what have you. So
learning is messy, no doubt.
Yeah.
But I think it's supposed to be.
It is. It is.
I used to think that the purpose of being alive, to get really existential here, but that the point of humanity was, what are we built to do? Well, we're built to breathe and to procreate and to walk and think, and that's about it. I mean, truly, yeah, we can run and we can swim.
Yeah.
Now we can even fly, but we're not really, is that really what we're built for? I don't know. Maybe this is an old thought that I'd had a long time ago, but now I feel like the entire purpose of life is to experience. And that takes a lot of pressure out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To just experience. It doesn't mean you have to achieve a certain level of anything, and you might have your own goals and drive and expectations, but to experience life in all its various forms and what it brings to you and what you seek out. And I think experiencing a lot, and that might be a lot of emotions and a lot of, physical locations and activities. It's just to experience it.
I can see how that's taken you straight towards being an interesting and interested person. You're on track.
Okay. Yeah. But it really does take a lot of the pressure off when you're like, wait, okay, I'm doing it. I'm experiencing life. Okay, check.
When you, I've come across somewhere, like people on their deathbeds or people, elders who've been asked like a question about like, what's the most important thing to know, as you move through life, or what do you wish you'd known? And so much of that wisdom is really just about appreciating the moments, like experience things, like be present to what's happening and love more. That's another one that comes up for a lot of people too.
Yeah. And there's a lot going on in our lives. I mean, at this point in life, whether it's aging parents or children or divorce or your phone constantly buzzing, there's a lot of reasons to not be present. There's a lot of ways to not be present. But taking the time to say, hey, wait a minute. No, I want to be present right now for this moment, and then reveling in it.
There's the choice, right? It's because oftentimes our moments aren't really fun or pleasant. right? There's that risk
I
where
have two
it's,
preteens who whine a lot. There are many moments that are unpleasant in every day. Yeah, I mean, I used to look at my mom and think, why is her face like that? Why is her resting face? There was no such thing as a resting bitch face, in the 90s, but
yeah,
I remember thinking, why is her face just like that all the time? Why does she just look unhappy? And now my kids will say, why are you so angry? I'm like, I'm just washing the dishes and trying to ignore the vomit coming out of your mouth. I'm not angry. I'm trying to be peaceful. I totally cut you off there. Sorry.
that's good. That was gold.
Oh.
I guess all I was saying is it's the choice that we have in any moment is about whether or not we choose to revel or not, right? And that's what changes our reality is what we focus on. So it's like at certain points in life and phases that we go through, there's a lot more discomfort and not good feelings, depending on what we're going through around us or circumstances or injustices that we're witnessing or stuff that isn't good. And certainly in this age of information and access to media and all these things, it can be very easy to get overwhelmed by lots of crappy things that are happening. So it's, and of course there's lots of reasons and mechanics as to why we get exposed to that, which is a whole other conversation. But it's in that moment of recognizing that, yeah, okay, what I'm experiencing or what's happening around me is happening. And I choose to see this also, right? It's not either or. It's not blacking out, like I'm choosing not. It's all love and light. I don't see anything else, because that's not real. That's not actually what's happening, but it's more of the ability to be this and really living in the and of, yeah, all that shit's happening. And I'm going to choose to notice that my dahlias are like starting to bloom. And that's pretty amazing. And I just picked a raspberry this morning, the kind that's warmed by the sun and has all the flavors like that, that can coexist with all the really challenging things that are also unfolding. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what makes life sweet, right?
That's the wonder and the awe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Self-transcendence, I think is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we are so much the moments. We are made up of the moments and what we choose to notice and what we choose to fill our brains and our bodies with and our time. And I read a book recently called Humankind. It was an optimistic view of humanity. And it was actually highly recommended. But ultimately, when we spend more time focusing on the bad things going on, we feel worse. Yeah. That's not to ignore them, but to also focus on the fact that there's a lot of great things going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even in really hard times.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, if only we can all remember that.
Right. Well, in my massage therapy practice, I'm so often taking people into experiences of their bodies. Sometimes we have to do things during the treatment that are uncomfortable in order to get them back to a balance in their body. So it might be working into a tight muscle that hurts a bit when we're releasing it. So I help them experience that discomfort in a way that they can feel the pain of it. If we're going to call it pain, we'll call it pain for simplicity here. They feel that pain while also consciously softening their body in response to it. And that's similar to like watching a really stressful newsreel and savoring a raspberry. Like, because we were working with coexisting sensations and choosing to be in them with our full presence. And that, in my experience, makes it a heck of a lot easier to not feel done to by life, but feel like I'm in partnership with and that I'm advocating for myself and that I'm choosing what matters for me.
I love that because I sometimes feel skeptical when people say everything is happening for you.
Mm-hmm.
I have had a hard time fully accepting that. At the same time, I absolutely acknowledge that life is not just being done to me. I feel like I live somewhere more in the middle. And I think that's acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Me too. It's not always easy to get it, but yeah. That's why we have to have people around us to talk this stuff through, to share the reality, to bring it to present time. Because boy, the council in my head sometimes goes sideways as far as like the types of messaging that happens at that round table. I really have to be the leader at that table sometimes because it gets pretty bad, so talking with people in real life as well, not just the cacophony of my inner council. Not that they're not real, but the shared human reality.
You can't always trust your thoughts, especially your knee-jerk reactions, right?
Oh God, no.
And in the same way that we can't trust what's being shown to us on our phones, on our apps and our media. I mean, there's always another agenda behind it. So take that into consideration, right? And that's even with our own thoughts. It might be self-preservation. Wait a minute, is that really necessary? Do I need to be totally fearful right now?
Yeah. Might have made sense when I was 9 years old, but I'm not sure that's relevant right now. Absolutely. Thank you. This has been cool.
Yeah, we should do this more often.
Yeah, right? All right, Sierra. Thanks so much for chatting today. I feel like we answered... Actually, I feel like we're walking away with more questions, but I feel validated. So that's good.
No, I think it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Between Breath and Air. If you're keen to support my work, please like and subscribe to this podcast. And if you'd like to be the first to know about other stuff I'm up to, hop over to my website, danasmithwellness.com, and subscribe to my love letter so I can visit your inbox a couple of times per month. So until next time, let me ask you this. During this one wild and precious life, how will you use your time while your breath is not just air?